yours. Yes.
All right, so call today's meeting to order. This will be an executive committee meeting of the Roanoke Regional Allegheny Commission. And if Mr. Holmes, if you'd call the roll for the executive committee, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Chair Wallace,
Present.
Mr. North,
Here.
Mayor Gross. Here. And those are Lori Smith is already notified us she will not be here. And Dean Martin is not here. That's it. So, but we do have a quorum of the executive.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. We want to just kind of follow the regular order, do you think?
I think, Mr. Hill, we will just follow the order of the commission agenda, as listed. And we will send the actions that come from the executive committee on to the commission in March.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Holmes. Then, I guess moving on to the chair's remarks. So for those that are here, the limited people, just a quick reminder that tomorrow is the deadline for your communities to submit project requests for the fiscal year 2025 work program. If you have an idea for a program or have any questions, would recommend you get in contact with Mr. Holmes, and he can kind of assist you in reviewing that to see if it's a viable project for the commission. And the next thing, in an effort to better familiarize the new commissioners and the veteran commissioners, starting in March, at the next meeting, we're going to have a brief staff highlights at each commission meeting. So this will basically be an opportunity for our staff to introduce themselves and tell us their focus areas and a few significant projects which they're working on, and to highlight anything of interest they've recently accomplished. And this should be helpful just to give you guys an idea of what might be available through the work program and throughout the year as opportunities that might be able to assist your locality. And I was going to recognize Miss Amy White from Botetourt, but she's not here. She's our newest commission member who replaces Billy Martin. So we'll save a reintroduction of Miss White for the next March meeting. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Holmes for his report.
Actually, Mr. Chair, if we can, we do need to approve the consent agenda, real quick, to approve the minutes from the January meeting, to approve the minor change to the collective advisory committee bylaws, and the financial reports.
So be the executive committee.
The executive committee, yes.
So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve item 2, executive committee meeting.
Thank you, Mr. North.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gross. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. That motion carries, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple very quick comments. First, I'm pleased to announce that our Roanoke Valley Collective Response team is growing. I'd like to introduce Mr. Joe Rosenberg, who joins us as the new Grants and Program Administrator for the Collective Response. His primary responsibilities would be to manage compliance with our SAMHSA and OAA grants, provide general grant oversight, and assist in identifying and developing new funding opportunities for this important and growing program. So Joe's arrival here is long overdue. I'm very excited to have him, and I know he's already been hard at work getting a lot of grant related things taken care of. I see a lot of emails, which I very much appreciate. So welcome aboard, Joe. I don't know if you're welcome to introduce yourself if you'd like.
Sure. I'm Dr. Joseph Rosenberg. I live in Benton. Before here, I had over 16 years of nonprofit leadership experience, and I've had over 20 years experience in higher education. And my emphasis of my studies of my doctorate was adult education and learning.
Thank you.
Two more quick items. You may have seen, and I think I've received some feedback from some of you, we have soft launched the commission's new website. That's redesign of that site was long overdue. I'm very excited to be able to share that with you, and I encourage you to go out and visit, provide some feedback while we're still in kind of the development phase of that. The site has been developed around more modern accessibility standards and mobile responsiveness, and this body approved, the funding it would take to undertake this pretty significant effort. And I especially want to recognize Elizabeth Elmore, who has led that project, working with the consultants to see that through, work with staff and has done a very good job with getting us to where we are now. So I really appreciate Elizabeth's work and all the input from staff and others to get us here. And then finally, you may have seen, there is a proposed amendment in the House budget from some additional funding for PDCs. Most planning districts have not received an increase in funding from the state since before the 2008 recession. There's a proposal for a one-time 2-year supplemental funding of $75,000 per year per PDC that's currently in the House. It is not in the Senate side. So our friends at VAPDC are working with the General Assembly to try to get the House and Senate on the same page, and they will be setting out some information of ways that we can be helpful. So I will likely be sharing some stuff with you on that, and appreciate any outreach or communications you might be willing to do on the commission's behalf to get us a little bit more money to help us help you. So that is all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Holmes. And with that, we'll move on to item 5 on the agenda today, which is the CERTI assessment. And we're pleased to welcome back Miss Misty Crosby, Mr. Tim Ware, who visited, I guess about a month ago and interviewed a lot of our personnel and members. And the podium is yours, and we look forward to hearing what you found.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
See, since this isn't a full board meeting, I can go to 7:30.
No, it's truncated.
You don't mind talking to him. Well, thank you for having us again. Just as an introduction, my name is Tim Ware. We're with the Southeast Regional Directors Institute, which is a development organization of executive directors in the South and Southeast states, of 12 or 13 states. If you look at the makeup of the states, they're not all Southeast states. But there are several states that saw what a great opportunity in professional development for executive directors of CERTI was, that they decided they would like to be in CERTI. You know, Misty is one of them. She's from Ohio. That's not exactly a southern state, I didn't think.
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait, yeah. But, again, I'm Tim Ware, and I was an executive director for about 20 years. First being in Little Washington, North Carolina, which is on the coast, or near the coast. And I finished up my career in Fredericksburg, Virginia, at one of the planning district commissions. And it's great news to hear that there is money on the table for PDCs. You know, I think we got $75,000 a year that we use every cent of it every year, you know, for helping communities. And it's great to see whether you're starting to get a little recognition. Misty, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. As Tim said, I'm Misty Crosby and I'm from Ohio, although I was a member of CERTI. CERTI created an associate membership category just so I could join, because CERTI is the membership organization for executive directors of regional councils of government, regional planning commissions, regional planning organizations, whatever you want to call them. So I always really found a lot of value sitting around the table with folks that did the same thing that I did in other states, and learning from each other. That peer-to-peer learning opportunities were great. So I really enjoyed spending a week in your region. And I certainly got around and I ate all the food and did all the breweries. So yes, I really had a great time after work, of course, but thank you for having me back.
Really, I don't think we hit all the breweries. We've got one more night here. As far as CERTI also, they're starting to branch out a little bit with more training opportunities for staff. Your finance director was just in one in Greenville last week, which I understand there were well over 100 people that attended that session, which was wonderful news. Just to let you know what we did here. The first thing is, this was not a strategic assessment. You know, we're hopefully, from what you will find here, will help you to go ahead and develop one if you wish in the future. What we did, we went out and we did a survey of elected officials as well as others that went out in November or December. And when we came here, we did various focus groups with counties, and then one-on-ones with different ones of your board members and other people that were familiar with your organization. Now, what we found is that, and I've said this for years, that my wife never knew what I did for a living. I did this for 20 years, and she never understood what a council of government or a PDC does. When my kids were having their career day, they asked, "What does your dad do for a living?" His answer was, "My dad goes to meetings." Sharon, you can understand that, can't you? But what we're doing back here tonight or this afternoon is to, just give you an overview of what we found, and to get your input. We're bringing some recommendations here. You don't have to accept them. What would be wonderful if you could come up with some more recommendations that you could take forward to prepare a strategic plan or make this organization go forward. But one thing I would say from the beginning, this organization is not broke. You're very lucky to have good leadership. You have a great board, and you have wonderful communities that are there supporters of what you do.
So I get to kick off the best part. What did we learn that the commission does well? And I created this nice, whatever that's called, word thing. Really, we heard from across the region that the commission's a valuable source of data. So disseminating data, the trusted source for that information if you need something. The transportation initiatives are valuable across the region. Grant writing across the region is a role that the RVARC does a good job at. The legislative updates that you just completed and leading those regional legislative priorities were really appreciated. And that was mentioned several times. The housing study, folks found that information in that study to be valuable across the region. They're now looking for action items, so that could be some next steps. Your ability to convene regional partners was something that really hit home with all of the communities, especially those rural areas, when you would get out and convene stakeholders and groups from different organizations and come together to talk about issues of priority. That was one of the things that was really valuable. The mapping capabilities that you all have here, that you can visualize challenges and kind of try to tell the story or map out the problem and show that in a visual way. The rideshare program was mentioned as something that was really well done. The SEDS process, which allowed participation by an input from all across the region, was appreciated. And then the leadership in the collective response is also appreciated. Folks really like the leadership, the commission's ability to step up on that issue and lead that for the region. So what can the RVARC do better? There's another slide here, and you'll notice what that is. What we heard from everyone was just communicate more, right? And I know I did notice the website. Yes, I did. I was on there just the other day. Basically, communicate who you are, what you do, what you can do, what your staff has done, what they can do. Who do you serve? Who don't you serve? So really honing in on that message of who are your members, the local governments, how are you serving them? They're talking about, folks wanted to know what the wins were. So you'll have a plan, you'll have a project, and then it goes into this planning hole, and then you don't hear much about it on the back end. So celebrate yourselves when you do a good job, because you can't just expect folks to know that. I think some of that stuff can happen in social media. Some of that stuff can happen, on the ground in newspapers, on the local TV. There's a local government TV station. But a lot of that needs to happen like this, a lot of that needs to happen, not just at this meeting, but out in the region at other meetings, and I think we're gonna get to some of that, but I really do think that the commission is well thought of, and folks really want to plug in, they just don't necessarily know where. So I think that should be the focus of, some of the work that you all do this next year, and if you decide to take on a strategic planning process, regional commissions write strategic plans and comprehensive plans for other things. They don't necessarily write one for themselves as an organization. So if you think about taking some of these recommendations that we're gonna give you and pulling together a strategic plan for the organization, where do we wanna be? Not what does EDA need for a comprehensive economic strategy, or what does ARC need for the work plan, but what does the organization wanna do? That hopefully some of these strategies can inform some of that. So there were really great things, and really the only thing folks had anything critical to say was, what do they do? Who are they? How do they do it? How can I access them? How can I plug in? How can I be a part? So I felt pretty good at that. That was a big thing. So,
Does anybody agree or just go ahead?
I just have a question. I mean, who were you communicating with that said that they don't know who we are? I mean, what was the audience that you were hearing this from?
We were hearing up from all over. Primarily, it was from the rural areas, the outer bands of the region. They felt that they did not know what goes on in this organization, what the organization could do. Now, I don't think it's anybody's fault in here. You have to participate in one thing. I think we've heard from, several counties that they don't come to the meetings, because the meetings are too far away. There was one county that we didn't even speak with anybody with, either because they didn't think they didn't have the time to do it, or they didn't know the relevance of it. And a lot of the issues too is, as you see in local government, that you have many new elected officials that a lot of them don't have a lot of local government experience. So of course, they're not gonna know what this organization does.
But you're talking about either members of the commission who will represent these, or saying this,
And staff of these.
and staff to look out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that certainly is something. Seems like we're all-
Yeah. And again, it's nobody's fault in this room. It's just a fact of life. And you're not the only one this happens to either. Any other comments on that?
What I'm hearing is how we communicate with our members and the localities that are part of our region. The emails, I don't know how many emails you get, but I get lots and lots of them, but perhaps there needs to be a different way of communication.
Is there a newsletter that goes out?
It's a little on hiatus as we put in focusing on website kind of issues, because those things are tied together, but that with the website kind of relaunching, that is on the way.
Okay. And then, as everybody knows, you probably get 15 emails a week with newsletters.
And Jeremy, do we
So,
have
you have to be very creative in how you go about doing these things as well and communicating with people.
I was just asking Mr. Holmes, do we have a social media
We have,
program for the commission, and who runs it?
Elizabeth does the primary of the work. We have a Facebook page. Several of the programs, Collective Response and Right Solutions, have their own Facebook presences. Most of the time the time we spend is on that particular platform. We haven't got too much out into Instagram and X and some of those other things, and I'm not sure that the value is necessarily there, but we do have ongoing social media output.
And then from your all's experience, does it make sense to have so many different social media sites versus just one unified site for the commission?
I think the more the better.
Okay.
I don't think this is, a lack of opportunity. I think that it has always been viewed as potentially a challenge that we are relevant to our member governance. And that, they understand or appreciate what value the commission adds, for them. And, I think that, you know, it's probably just coincidental, but it's somewhat ironic that I don't think I've been to a meeting where we had this low in attendance, and didn't have a quorum to actually conduct business. I can't remember that happening. So I don't know if that's a sign of the issue that you're talking about, or if it's just truly a coincidence, but, I think that, it is, you know, you can't take for granted, particularly when you have new members coming on, because the members are appointed. And we have theoretically, we have attendance requirements, but they are enforced by the local governments. They're not enforced by us. We would, you know, if someone misses 2 meetings, then we are, you know, I think the policy is that we notify the local government that the representative they appointed is not attending. But, maybe I'm different. I haven't seen that as really an issue, but I think the more turnover you have, and the less kinds of projects or things that you're doing that obviously touch on the people who are actually representing them. I'm a little more concerned when you say it's the staffs, because that is where I think we have people at every level that, you know, reach out, I think, and have some involvement in the staff. So, just a bit of a wake up call.
And one thing go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, that does the commission itself, do we have like an outreach person or somebody that's dedicated to going out and I mean, I know that Jeremy, you worked with me when I first came on board. But I mean, is there somebody that's within the commission that would actually go out and visit, especially new people that are just elected or new people that come on board, that might be able to, you know, I guess, give them an introduction to the commission and what they offer?
I do a lot of that, particularly with new commission members. I think that's, you know, kind of an important role for me to fulfill. Elizabeth does the public outreach, and that's very much focused on our kind of requirements for public engagement under various federal programs to kind of support that. But and then lots of staff are working on a project by project with elected officials and staff. But I think the closest to what you're describing is what I try to do with new members, and when I spoke with Salem, it's presented to Salem City Council and those kinds of things. That's probably the closest formal activity we have.
Which brings us to the first recommendation. Yeah, one of the recommendations, these are not in any kind of order. It's just the way we put it on the page, but, the orientation program. Once we talked to board members, some of them said they had an orientation. The others said, I can't remember. So, and depending on how long you've been on the board, you may not remember that you had an orientation. So our recommendation here is that at least once a year, the board be oriented on what this organization does. It's easy to forget, and, you know, projects change, staff changes. So there needs to be a process in place that it keeps getting reinforced. It's reinforced to the board members as they go on, so that they can go back to their commissioners and say, this is what we do. And these are the projects that we are going to be able to offer to them. And one of the things that I hope that the board goes back and say to their communities, that this organization is open to their staff. They're additional staff members for them. They're not just this organization down on the side that's just doing their other things. This organization is owned by the members. It's not owned by them. It's not owned by Jeremy. Again, to have this done annually, and probably do it at a commission meeting. So it's not an additional meeting that has to draw everybody in for another meeting where everybody has so many meetings anyway. It would be an overview of what this organization does, as well as the state regulations, how it was formed, the current programs, and the abilities that it has. And then, for those that can't make that meeting, have it available online or after the fact. And before I actually leave that, who are your customers? Obviously, the board members are customers. The staffs are customers. Your federal and state officials, they need to be in the loop of what's going on in this organization. I know you're doing your legislative priorities then. Has there ever been any request to bring in the board meetings?
They are occasionally invited,
Okay,
to present, but not on a, like a regular cycle. Anything like that. It's been fairly ad hoc.
okay. Yeah, there are many agencies around the country that do that they have their congressmen on every agenda. Now, whether they attend or not, that's another thing, but they're given the opportunity to know what's going on in this organization, and know the organization cares about what they are doing in Richmond, Washington, DC.
Most, yeah, I mean, I think members of Congress have a, I don't know, a liaison type person,
Yeah.
and I think there have been times when those representatives have come, to meetings. A lot of it depends, I guess, on the use of their time and the perceived relevance of what we're doing, but.
It might be helpful to say that you've always got a place on our agenda to make any kind of remarks that you would like.
So an example of that would be if you invite them all, but they have to RSVP. I know because some people can get a little long-winded. So you invite them, they have to RSVP, and then you allow them, 5 minutes to provide an update from their member or on a new program that they're doing or a new bill that they have. And then that gets them in front of this audience, and then also gives you an opportunity to have some one-on-one time before or after the meeting if you would like to do that. So you give them an opportunity to speak as part of the agenda, and you call that updates from federal and state offices or whatever. It could actually be, in the council that I worked for, we would invite the governor's office of Appalachia director to come or send his person or, and sometimes they would show up if they had something, if they wanted to see some of you all in person or if they had an update on the program. So it's a good opportunity to build that relationship with those folks if you don't already have that.
And as you all know, it's a lot easier to get their ear here rather than on legislative day when everybody's in Richmond. And I guess the only other customer I can think of, and you may not even want to go back as far as, is the general public. Do you want the general public to know what this organization does and its capabilities are?
Along that same line, we've got the next one as a, annual local government briefing and work session, so, and I wanna be a little bit careful on this whole communication thing. It's a lot of work to develop a communication strategy, like you would need to put some resources to that. And the board would have to decide that it was needed, right? You can't just, I wouldn't advise just blasting out everything that you do on Facebook and Twitter and whatever. You have to understand the audience and who they are and what they want from you, right? And then you communicate those things. So more of a targeted communication plan of, we're gonna communicate X program to this audience and we're gonna communicate Y program to this audience. And then in general, we're gonna have this conversation. On that local government briefing work session, so a lot of the members are local governments and they sit around this table, but then there are a lot of other elected officials that don't sit around the table. So figuring out, basically having a once a year annual briefing that you invite all the elected officials to come. You can have it here, you can have it around, the region, but you give them an opportunity, so number one, the commission honks its horn, right, a little bit, they say, this is what we did last year, and these are all the great staff, and look at all the wonderful things, and this is how we've helped all these communities, and then you gather input from them on what they need for the coming year, and I know you do that, you do a call for you're in the middle of that right now, and there's a due soon, I think, a call for projects and input. So maybe as a kickoff to that, that happens at a regional level where you invite folks to the table. And again, that can help inform the development of the work program, but really this is about building those relationships with those local folks and the staff. So I would encourage all of you that sit around the table as well to, what you hear here, oh my goodness, what you learn at this meeting and what you hear from the staff, that you go back and you talk to your staff and your other partners that serve your communities with you, because they're not sitting here. So it's kind of a two-way street. The staff and Jeremy get out and get on the road and talk to people and educate, but also the folks sitting around the table, you have an obligation to kind of take what you hear here and take it back to your localities so they can understand how the commission, what they're doing, so they can find value in that. You want to try to build that, I guess that connection to the commission for future leaders, right? So I would encourage you all to do that, but just having an annual local government briefing and a work session once a year would be helpful, I think, and get you out in front as well as give folks another opportunity to provide input. I don't think you can have more of that.
Again, then visibility to your local governments. As Jeremy said, he goes out and he's on the road, going to commission meetings or what other kind of meetings. Quite frankly, that may not be enough. You know, I remember my job in Washington, in North Carolina, I had 52 local governments. And and have an executive director try to get out to every one of those local governments was a chore. That's why my kids said my dad's always at a meeting. And they were always night meetings too. So what we're recommending here is that there be more interaction with these local governments, not just to certainly make sure that someone's at a board meeting or periodically be at a board meeting. But as you guys, the staff goes out to meet the local governments for whatever project, you know, drop by the manager's office and say, how's it going? You know, what can we do? What can we do for you? What are we doing well? What are we not doing? So that they're seeing your face and they know that you, quite frankly, I know that you care and you care, but they need to know that you care. And they need to see that, need to have a familiarity of, you know, the PDC is out here. They're out here meeting us. They're out here seeing us. They're seeing what our communities need. And we can, quite frankly, let them know how we can assist them. So it may be a case of Jeremy assigning someone, one of the staff members to a particular town, a particular county. And so that they have a familiar face, the same face. It goes out and meets them. Staff not liking this, I know, I can tell those faces, but, you know, it's something they need to know. As we said earlier, there's some communities here that don't know what in the world this organization can do for them. And we've seen by the great things that you do, there are many things that can be done for these communities, especially these smaller communities where you can just be an extension of their staff.
Just out of curiosity, do we have a list of the names of people you spoke to?
We do have that, yep.
And one of the things on that, there was discussion about sometimes, and I know sometimes the commission has to say no, right? A member comes to them with a project and they're like, no, we don't have the capacity to do that. I would just make sure that you're giving them a handoff to someone or another organization that can do that for them. So if it's beyond the scope or the capacity of the commission, try to always think about who it is that you can refer them to that could assist them with that thing that they need. Don't just leave them hanging. One of the things that came up as well was the need for planning for future leadership changes. Not that anybody wants you to be gone, Jeremy, because we were all I heard great things about you and your work. The previous assessment that was done when the executive director was leaving, it was all about, okay, the executive director's been here for 40 years and he's leaving, what are we gonna do? And oh my gosh, there was a lot of angst about that. And there was some comments from some of the members that we don't wanna be there again. We wanna know that the leadership within the staff leadership are thinking about turnover and how to fill positions, and not just at the executive director level, but throughout the staff. So as staff turnover, are there opportunities to meet a need in a community that you might not have been able to fill before, right? So for instance, if a planner one, I don't even know the names of your things, but if a planner one left the organization, you just automatically fill that with a planner one? Or is that an opportunity to look at the organization and where your strengths and weaknesses are and your skill sets of your current staff are, and bring somebody on board with a different skill set that might meet a need of the member? That is a process in and of itself of, you've got to look at your existing staff. There's a whole succession planning effort that has to go on, but you write down your skills, you figure out what it is you need, and you try to marry those up, and you figure out where your strengths and weaknesses are. And then you can move forward as opportunities arrive. Not that you want to move anyone along, but as opportunities present themselves, then you fill positions that might bring a different skill set to your current team.
The other thing I need to say is, as you realize, this isn't free. Obviously, we can stand up here and spend all your money, but we know that their resources are very, very critical in all of this. So, that's something that has to be taken into account. And then the last recommendation had to do with, those communities that really didn't feel like they were part of the organization. Again, these were the counties on the borders of the region. And talking to them, they said, there are some things that we could use you for if we knew what you did. And one of the recommendations we asked them, would it be helpful to you to put a staff member up in your community? Either as you're saying somebody can come and talk to about different programs, or there are specific tasks in these counties that they don't have the resources to hire staff, that the staff here could fill in and be a planner for them, maybe one day a week, or code enforcement. This organization could help people out with job searches, financial help. And these smaller communities where I know in North Carolina there was a big problem with keeping staff on hand to do the finances. Not only keep them on hand, but have a qualified person that can do it. And possibly that could be something you could go out for. What we're doing is to bring in a program to assist with finances. One of the other issues that we've heard was, it really is it takes us a half a day or a whole day to come to a commission meeting. Would it be possible to move periodically, to move the meetings around to different localities? Of course, that's tough to do with Franklin County coming all the way up to the upper north, but something that you could think about to do periodically.
So it's mutually, it's equally inconvenient.
Right, exactly. You understand that, people have jobs, people have other things to do, and if you're not wasting a whole day, but you're spending a whole day for a 2-hour meeting, you're taking 2 hours to get there and 2 hours to get home. It becomes burden. And another suggestion that we had that they would really like for your organization to do is to be a convener of the nonprofit agencies in this region. Especially up in Alleghany. They said that they had several people that were on the focus group that really had no idea, what the organization does. As an example, one of them said, I thought I was here for an airport meeting. But, no, you're here for a regional council meeting. They said, well, what do you do? And you could help us by convening all the nonprofits in this area at least once a year. So we could start talking to each other and talking to you about how you could assist us.
Well, that convening role, I can't say enough about how the commission is viewed as we're neutral. We can bring folks together that might have different views. We can mediate conversations. We can try to problem solve for the region, in a way no one feels threatened or feels like their voice isn't being heard, right? You give opportunity for that. So I would encourage more of that. And we wanted to get to some of the regional opportunities for the commission as well. And then other strategies that you might all want to talk through that you didn't hear us talk about. So one of the things that we heard that keep doing the collective response. Do that, do more of that. We all need that and thinking about capturing the data that's behind all of those opioid crisis issues throughout the region. What can you think about doing regionally? Affordable housing is an issue at the regional level. Housing in general, perhaps there's an opportunity to hold a regional housing summit that's building upon the housing study. That now what are we gonna do? Because we have this study and all this data, what are we gonna do with all of that now? What are the next steps? Public safety, hazard mitigation, grant assistance for those types of things was a regional issue. Homelessness. There was a specific mention of the point in time count. And that isn't my wheelhouse, so I'm not remembering exactly what that was, but homelessness is an issue as it's being discussed and mitigated in Roanoke. And it's outwardly spreading, and I think homelessness is an issue across every region. Micro transit, that's a huge opportunity. I think one of your staff members, when we were here last, was up actually in Alleghany talking about micro transit, and the folks up there were so appreciative and want more of that. And I think all of the rural counties, at some level, want to figure out, transit. Greenways, biking trails, all of that is great. Keep doing all of those things, do more of those things. Micro and revolving loans might be an opportunity. Again, Tim mentioned embedding staff in rural communities. That's sometimes difficult. But shared office space or free office space, 1 day a week, folks work remote. They could work from another county, another member's jurisdiction, just be there to build relationships with staff. A leader in obtaining more electric vehicle charging stations. A regional code enforcement initiative. Stormwater management. Workforce solutions and environmental issues were the top areas that came out of opportunities for the commission to engage across the region, that would impact all of the communities. Others? Put Tim back up there and make him up.
Now, really, what do you think about these recommendations? Are there any more that you could think that should be put on your radar?
I mean, I think all the recommendations that you made are good, and I just wanted to clarify too, that Jeremy and his staff do a great job. When I made the comment about outreach, I was thinking, Jeremy was very responsive, setting up an appointment with me as the newly elected official and explaining everything that they do. And when you were saying, I was thinking, man, is he the only one doing that? Because if he is, that's a lot. A lot for one person to be out doing. And even though they've been very responsive and, for me, I can understand maybe how the outlying counties, may not be able to, to get the information that they would like to have. And it's kind of hard if you don't look at Facebook, if you don't look at websites, and a lot of people don't. I mean, we take for granted that people do, some people just don't do it. And so some of the suggestions you made, I think are very valid suggestions. I'm sure Jeremy will take note of that. And, but I think overall, I think they do a great job.
Again, we never heard anything if there was any criticism of the staff Jeremy at all.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't want to try to respond, I guess I'm trying, you're here to do an assessment for what purpose? Well, what is the purpose of the survey assessment?
Basically, it's just to give this board, as well as Jeremy,
Input on,
input on how they can move the organization forward.
okay,
Increase
and we
value.
paid you to do this, right? Okay. So I guess my reaction is that all the things that you discussed, with a few specific exceptions on topics, I feel like we're already doing. And so it makes me wonder a little bit about who you're talking to. You didn't talk to me, so I couldn't share with you what I think we're doing. But I think what it does more than anything else, it illustrates the difficulty of integrating new members of the commission. Although I'm not sure that's who you were talking to. I'm still unclear as to who you were interviewing. I don't expect the general public to ever have a good grasp of what we do. It's just not something that would make sense, or I think would be a great use of our time to do that. Now, you understand that this organization also provides support to the transportation planning organization, which is a completely, well, I'll say a completely different function. And that requires a lot more public input, and a process that assures that you're getting that input. That's really not something that the commission, I don't think itself, has to have. And so I just, but I think, and I've been on this organization, I'm sure longer than anybody here. So I've seen it go through a lot of change and transition. I think we're always cognizant of the fact that every local government that is a member, that's their choice. And they can choose not to be a member. And so I think leadership has always taken the point of view of how can we serve the needs of our local governments better. We have, Eddie Wells has been here, I think, you may be the longest tenured staff member. 25 years. Yeah. And Eddie's primary job is in the community development arena. He's the one that's out there working with those rural governments more than anybody else, to find out what their needs are. But we also have to plan and we have to budget. So we're in the process right now of our work program development, which translates into our budget and allocation of resources, which primarily is staff time. And so it does require interaction and engagement and communication back from the localities. So I guess what I would be interested in is if you learned anything that would improve our processes, because I'm assuming you talk to staff and you know what they do and how we do things. You talk to our constituents and gotten their impressions on whether we're doing a good job with that and where we might be able to improve. But do you have any recommendations to us as to how, either at the staff level or at the board level, as to how we actually can connect the dots, I guess, in all this process?
I think one of the.
And I understand when you say have meetings with local governments and things like that, that's getting at that.
And I think one of the key things I said earlier was, when you guys get out of your meetings, there could be, just a little time on your local government agenda to say what went on at the PDC.
Yeah, but that would fall on, because some of us are community representatives or citizen representatives, and some of us are local government representatives. And so part of that primarily would fall to the local government representatives to go back and have. And, my experience is that you have a line item on a monthly meeting or whatever that says report from, regional commission.
Mm-hmm.
Or our representative on the
Right. And that's very tough to do, because you go back to your meetings and they're very, very busy. That's the last thing you want to have is another report.
We did hear there's I think the planners get together once a quarter, or a a little more structure to that, or a little bit more pre-planning of topic. So they come together, they have lunch, they talk to each other, but a little bit more structure around that on this month, we're gonna talk about this. So come armed with your ideas, your best practices, your challenges, so that we can have a structured conversation and share among the members. That was one of the things that folks talked about. Really those facilitated conversations with staff, the staff at the community level, right? For them to have opportunities to learn from each other and to figure out who to contact at the commission that can help them with their thing. We heard that over and over and over again, realizing that, as the commission has staff turnover, everyone has staff turnover. So you're not only educating the elected official, right? You're gonna educate their staff on how they can use the commission. If you have folks that have had a bad experience with the commission in the past, or folks that are brand new to their role at the locality level, they won't even know to pick up the phone to call you unless their elected official that sits here tells them to do that. Because then you're relying on them to train their staff a certain way to do a thing. So proactively figuring out, if you have a roster of those folks, this is the person that's in charge of the planning for this town, and their contact information up to date, and reaching out to them, talking to them, saying, this is what we do and how we do it. We did hear that there was some staff turnover at the commission. So folks that might have been good at doing a certain thing, they left. So they don't know, the staff at the locality level doesn't know who to contact now. And is that even in the wheelhouse of the commission any longer, right? So again, it all goes back to just communication to those folks that are your trusted partners that are working for that community that is the member that sits around the table. I mean, I really think it's a communication issue can be improved. And opportunities to bring like-minded folks to the table to talk about an issue or a topic of concern at the regional level, and convene those folks that would go a long way to, enhancing your relevance, which was the purpose of this, come up with strategies that are gonna improve your member service and enhance your relevance across the region to the local governments. So, I mean, I really think it's communication, it's opportunities for people to chat, to talk to each other, to build relationships. You're not doing bad. There was, like we said, there wasn't a bad thing. It was, we don't know how to plug in. How do we plug in? We don't know if the same skill set's there that was before. How do we access that, right? So I think some of those things just need to be focused on. It would be helpful.
If I might, chime in, just a minute, a lot of what you said is not too surprising, as Lee pointed out. We've always, I won't say struggled, but we've talked about, how do we educate new members as they come on? That's always very important. That's something that's been around. We've talked a lot about general public understanding what we do. That's after worrying about that for years, I've come to the conclusion that I really don't think that's going to happen. I think that the people that need to know what we do are the folks in this room now and the local staff. The one thing that you did point out that is surprising to me, and quite concerning, to be honest with you. If I understood correctly, you were saying that the staff in the localities, the planners there and the staff there, didn't understand what we do. Now that is a major concern. That is major in my opinion, and that's something that needs to be addressed. I will have to disagree with you on one point. If you're counting on me to train my staff in town, I'm sorry, I don't think that's gonna happen. I would, that's something we have to talk about, whether it's the regional commission staff that does that, or who's a lot, I'm just not sure. But I feel like I've probably done enough on my plate without trying to say that. But that is, out of everything that you've said, that's the one surprising and very concerning for me, because that's who we really serve. I mean, maybe indirectly, some elected officials and representatives show up every month, hopefully every month, but, really, when you get down to it, if the local staff doesn't let us know what they need or how we can serve them, then that's a major concern. In my opinion.
I just want to expand on that comment. I was sitting here thinking about how to remedy some of this or make it better. I think, first of all, Jeremy goes out and calls on local governments, and then he goes to every one of them at least once a year. At least he leaves town under that impression. You do that, don't you?
Yes.
No, but he's been doing that because Wayne did it, and, you know, he worked under Wayne. Maybe, I don't know, do you take some staff members from here? I guess they communicate outside of your attendance with those people that they're working on projects. But what I think could help remedy this is to have a staff day. In other words, have your staff here, but invite staff from, and you have limited space here. So maybe you do a staff day for 2 counties one day, and then maybe another day in the future, you invite 2 more, counties or cities or towns, staff people here, and you give them a presentation from each one of your planners or staff members on what they can do for you. And then you're talking to the people that need to hear that message. Now I know we've got 2 work programs we're gonna come after, because Megan is sharing them with me. And I'm trying to encourage staff to, do the same from the dais when I have my 3-minute comment period, but you can't say too much in 3 minutes. But I think staff to staff maybe should talk here, and you all sell them on what you can help them do, and then let them go back and think about it. You could end up getting a lot of requests, more than you not have time for, and then you're gonna have to, figure out how you're gonna handle that. On the other hand, if communities don't send their people here, they don't show up, well, you at least ask them. I mean, you can't go out and handcuff them and bring them in here, but, I think that might be one thing to do. The other thing is we do an annual government legislative meeting with legislators, usually in November, maybe first part of December. And for the most part, most of the delegates show up. And we share with them things that we're concerned about. But maybe we could expand it a little bit, maybe, see if they have the time, and give them a dog and pony show about what we're doing, what we've done the past year. And, maybe you all can help us in other areas. Some of them may have some ideas no one's thought about. But then at the same time, the second part of it would be, here's our legislative concerns from each area. In other words, you have someone, you just take that event we have annually and just expand it a little bit by telling the legislators what we're doing here. What are some of our concerns here? And then you get the representatives from the different counties to say what their legislative concerns are. I think we've done that every year. So you're just expanding it a little bit. Time is valuable though, because these legislators are running around to all the governments. And I don't know if you could add a little program before lunch on what we're doing, have the lunch, and then afterwards, share, we can get everybody in the room to share what their legislative concerns and priorities. You just have 2 parts, 11 o'clock to 12, lunch 12 to 12:30, and then, because you're doing it already, you've got the group there already. And that might help.
I'd like to piggyback on that, because I stumbled into one of these meetings. I was not invited, but I ended up in the room and they welcomed me to sit down. So, and what I heard is that we're doing wonderful things, that we need to tell the community what we're doing. That when we do a report, I don't see it published in the newspaper. So it's just not getting out all the good things that are happening. And then there were thoughts too, that with federal guidelines, a lot of the projects need community input. And the community input is when the staff present the report. And so it's for the localities to accept, but the localities need more input, or probably input on the front end of these reports. So there's just a little bit of tweaking on, I mean, on how we communicate to the community what we're doing and how we showcase, all the good information that we have. And I think we need to have one of the community input things. Why have it in this room? This room is dull. Why don't we just have it at Parkway Brewery or someplace and have people come by and stuff? I mean, let's reach out to the community.
How are you gonna drive yourself home after you've been at Parkway?
Ride a bike.
Oh, that's even scarier. Hey, let's go there after this meeting.
Well,
I hear what you're saying, Mark.
You know, when I first started my career with the regional council, now I was told by my executive directors that we stay on the background. We let the communities take all the credit for any successes that we have. The only problem with that, Jeremy wants another $75,000 for his organization. And people don't know why you're getting that $75,000, you're never gonna get it from the legislature.
Yeah.
So toot your own horn.
You got to get, can we do a monthly newsletter?
Well, that's where it's in the process of being relaunched.
Well-
The new site.
Next month.
Good, well, you know, you do it, you put it on Facebook, and then all of us could share it with people we know. That's one way. Of course, you can put it on your website. You can just launch it to whatever your addresses are you have, or to ever how you want to do it. But we do it like community development and economic development. We do a monthly newsletter. And it comes out as a email, but it also comes out online. It's kind of summarize what you've been doing, but more specifically, get that to all the governments and the staff people. And that's good that you're doing that now, because you do that over a couple of months, and then you have this little meeting where you get everybody from the staff over the, come see you here, or maybe you go someplace and have it there, I don't know. Maybe you go over and drive over there in Clifton Forge and pick a place over there, they find a place and you can do staff to staff there. You know, you got Rocky Mountain, the town, and Franklin, if they don't wanna come here, then, you know, you got Roanoke County, Roanoke City here, I mean, there's a way to do that, Benton. The mayor always likes people to come over to, Benton War Memorial. They can have a-
bring it on.
Anyway, or they could come here and you just maybe do a lunch package or something.
And Mayor, what you said about the staff also is, they don't know what this organization does. There's a lot of turnover in these communities as well.
Yeah, I'm sure, and that's probably why they don't know, because, obviously in the past, they've worked well with this staff, so you're exactly right. And Phil, I love some of your ideas about the staff to staff, communication and all. And I really like the idea of the public, but I will say this, I think we could spend a lot of time and energy, trying to inform the public when it's actually the staff that's our customers. Yeah, that's just my approach, you know. Now, I'd love to have the, public and community support, although I think that's eventually before we have to go, but that staff to staff thing is really, really critical, in my opinion.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, just to add, I think one of the things we've tended to do, you know, just to put that kind of public staff level into context, we have certain programs that are very public facing, Right Solutions, the Collective Response, and Blue Ways. They're generally branded, they're kind of more about a public customer.
Yeah,
So there's a real focus there on making sure the general public is aware. If you're at the TPO, you heard Andrea talk about the travel survey and kind of that understanding of the public's awareness of Right Solutions. But core commission operations in terms of planning support, grant writing support, that kind of stuff has always been more of a background, working with the CAOs, the town managers and so forth, more one-on-one. And so we've had that distinction between a public facing program versus core commission operations and who's the customer for those different things. That's always certainly open for discussion as to who our customers are, but that's kind of how we got here, is we've made that distinction.
I agree.
And Mr. Arnold, I like just to add, you talked about these core customer things, but most of our core customer functions are right here in the nucleus of this valley. They're not out in these surrounding counties, and that's why they missed the message.
Mhm.
Well, and we are serving the valley, and perhaps we need to have a rural component. Does the, what's the footprint of the commission?
It's Franklin County, the urban Roanoke Valley, up to through Botetourt, up to the Allegheny Highlands and Craig. It's a
Different needs. And I think some of your work with that collective response is getting your message out there. And that might be why you had, we didn't invite the public to come to these focus group sessions. They were individuals that Jeremy came up with from these towns and counties, but, you had word of mouth happen where, and then a person shows up as a social service person that has interacted with the collective response and is like, why hasn't the commission talked to my nonprofit about this? Because we're serving the same folks and trying to do some of the same thing, and we could work together. And that was where that nonprofit convening kind of started, but this commission hasn't historically been social service, right? So this collective response work that you're doing is broadening your horizons, and it might broaden them. And then this board's gonna have to figure out what it is, which direction that you wanna go, right? That's part of that strategic planning process that would, be undertaken, would be, do you really wanna go in that direction? Because that's a whole other can of worms and a whole other bit of service. So, that's gonna be a discussion that the board would need to have.
Let's move on to the next slide in the essence of time, please.
There's no other slide.
Okay,
That was a discussion. We do have a wrap up of next steps, but we're going to deliver the complete record report on no later than the 14th of March.
And that will include, these recommendations as well as the comments that were received from all the focus groups, and it's up probably 30 or 40 pages of report. That'll go to Jeremy.
Yeah.
And Jeremy will use his judgment of how much he can disseminate to you guys.
Yes,
All of that.
Misty and Tim, we certainly appreciate the time that you've spent down here in our communities and gathering information and bringing it back to us and giving us these insights. And I think you've also helped facilitate some discussions today, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more discussions amongst the executive committee and the board about how we can maybe implement some of the suggestions that you brought forward. So thank you.
You're welcome. And we offer to do one-on-one via Zoom with the members that aren't here if they want us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Both of these, yeah, we will need to do those times. So, executive committee can include as a question some of the things.
All right, so moving on to item 6 in our agenda is to consider a resolution authorizing the application for state commuter assistant program operating assistance grant and general project fund. And Ms. Garland, do you have any comments you'd like to
Well,
make?
I didn't think you guys didn't give me any money since there's no quorum, so I need to know.
Well, the executive committee will consider your request given the time sensitivity.
Oh, excellent. Oh, thank you. I told you last month that I will come back for money. But no, this is really usual business, and I'm glad I was mentioned there that some people like what we do because, so annually we apply for, to support the operations of the commuter assistance program, which we call Right Solutions. I think that, other projects that I present here to you, like the survey and the bus shelters and the EV planning, those are all other things that we do kind of under that solutions of transportation in a region, but this is specific to the commuter assistance program, so it's the grant through the Department of Rail, and Public Transportation that, requires a 20% match, and do this annually. So that is the resolution to approve the, submission of the grant, and the local funds will be used to, meet that 20% match.
Thank you. Can I get a motion from a member of the executive committee?
I'd like to make a motion for, that we approve the application for state assistance as described.
Thank you,
Second
Chris.
motion.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Holmes. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Garland. Next item 7 is action to endorse the fiscal year 2026 Smart Scale Roanoke Valley-Alleghany Regional Commission candidate project, and ask Mr. Hill to tell us briefly about that, please.
Will do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the executive committee. Just as a brief primer for those that aren't familiar with Smart Scale, and the memory's not kicking on exactly every letter that makes up that acronym, but the Smart Scale is in the last 7 years, the transparent way that the Virginia Department of Transportation and Transportation Secretariat select projects in a more transparent way through a competitive process through localities, regional bodies, and regional transportation agencies. Each regional body, this body, as well as the Transportation Planning Organization, has a complement of 4 applications. And it is this time of year that we are looking at receiving applications. So last month, we put out a solicitation to our regional localities in the rural and the urbanized areas for project requests. Obviously, as you all are well aware, each of your localities have a complement of 4, but these are 4 applications that the localities choose to have, in this case, us, the regional body, apply for on their behalf. So we did receive 1 application for a project in the rural area, which is from Franklin County, and it is the Franklin County along to US 220, Franklin County to Iron Ridge Road intersection improvement project. Essentially, that will create what is called an R-cut, a restricted crossing U-turn. This is a new project, and unfortunately, there were no other submissions for rural projects. And as we've discussed in the past, because the rural localities that are part of the body only have access to the 4 potential slots from the regional commission and not what the urbanized localities have, which is opportunity to take from both, then because they are members of both the TPO and this body, that the rural localities get precedence over any. So as just an FYI, in the meeting prior to this, there were 3 applications for 4 of the slots for the RVTPO from Roanoke County. Last round, we had more applications than from urbanized area localities than we had slots at the TPO. Therefore, there were slots that were taken from here. That is not the case. There were 3 slots, 3 projects, all from Roanoke County, and that's contained in your staff report, and I won't get into the specifics on that. But our recommendation here is we recommend to the executive committee that we accept the application and pursue an application for the aforementioned project, and then forward that recommendation for ratification at next month's or the next regular meeting of the original commission.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
I move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. North. Thank you, Mr. Gross. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Mr. Holmes. Moving on to, next item on today's agenda is the Regional Commission's Committees reports.
I believe we will skip.
Forego those?
Because of
Yeah.
the executive.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Is there any other business anyone would like to bring before the executive committee today? Hearing no other business, any comments from any commission members and or the public? And I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.